Time to chat some hockey.
Shot score! North Dakota wins!
The best college hockey writer in the country is on deck.
North Dakota, champions of the college hockey world.
Here's Brad Schlossman.
All right, time to chat some hockey, as the guy says, with our guy Brad, who's in my state, in the Empire State, about 2 hours from where I grew up in Potsdam, New York. That's where the University of North Dakota will take on Clarkson University, the Golden Knights, for a couple of games starting tonight and tomorrow. I knew they had a tough time in New York, but you wrote about it here. They've lost, is it 5 in a row? Longer than that in the state of New York?
Yeah.
Not great here. Cornell got them.
Yeah, they've kind of gone through ups and downs here.
Yeah, Canisius got them. It's not been great.
Yeah, they've gone. They had a really great month in 2017. They went and beat Boston College in New York City. Then they went and beat a really good Union team in Schenectady without Tyson Jost and Brock Besser. And then all of a sudden, since then, it hasn't gone well for UND. Whether it was the Canisius weekend in Buffalo, Cornell last year. That one was even worse because they got so banged up in that series that it affected even more than that series. And then, of course, their season ended in Albany one year at the regional. So they're trying to turn that a little bit here this weekend.
I'm just trying to think towns you've been. You mentioned great Schenectady name drop. Schenectady, Ithaca, Buffalo, Potsdam, NYC. You're missing Syracuse, Rochester, Utica, and then you'll have hit everything. You've had all the big ones in New York.
Yeah, we've been different parts of the state, from Western New York to New York City to now we're basically 15 miles from the Canadian border. For those that don't know where Potsdam and Canton are, they're two towns located about 10 miles apart. Clarkson is in Potsdam, and St. Lawrence is in Canton. We were actually staying in Canton.
Okay.
So UND's playing Clarkson, but everywhere around here, all you see is St. Lawrence signs. So, kind of an interesting dynamic.
And
you
were talking also the travel's different because you guys flew into, again, this is, we're not doing upstate New York fan line here, but you flew into Plattsburgh, which is 2 hours. It's a 2 hour bus trip from Plattsburgh to Potsdam where you're at.
Yeah, so that was the closest airport, I guess, that had the longest runways that could fit the plane. So yeah, we flew into Plattsburgh, which is right on the Vermont border. Then drove a couple hours. The team obviously got in their bus and they bussed a couple hours to get here. And by the time I'm guessing they dropped their gear, it was pretty close to 8 p.m. when they were going for their team dinner. So a little bit different travel, but for some of these guys that rode buses in junior hockey, flying on a charter plane isn't anything.
To complain about, right?
Yeah.
This is a different rink as well. I know you've been to all sorts of ones. This one tonight is going to be an intimate affair for UND.
Yeah, and it's Clarkson's home opener.
Yeah.
Clarkson's played 4 games this year, all on the road. So I'm sure the fans will be pretty fired up. Sorry for the blinking light. The light in the hotel is not really staying on. So in case everyone's wondering what is going on. I anticipate the crowd's going to be really fired up for this weekend, and it should be a great atmosphere in there. UND's only been here one time. It was, 1999. So it's been 26 years since UND's been here. So it should be a lot of fun.
The record is 4,100. Do you think they beat that this weekend with UND being there?
I don't know. That's I think they seat 3,000. I think that's going to be packed. They say they can add 800 through standing room. So I don't know if they the fire marshal would allow that to be beaten, but I still think it'll be a fun crowd.
This is a homecoming, or I guess a reunion for one UND player. Give us the backstory on that.
Yeah, Ellis Rickwood played 3 years at Clarkson and ends up transferring after last year for his final year of eligibility. He lost both of his line mates. Last year, he played with Ayrton Martino, who is a Hobie Baker finalist. He signed with Dallas. Ryan Richardson, his right winger, graduated and left. their top defenseman ended up leaving, and their goalies left. And I think he said it was a tough decision to leave Clarkson, but looked for opportunity. Went in the transfer portal, saw North Dakota had no centers really coming back, and thought this might be a fit for him. He said when he committed, he actually did know that UND was coming back here to play in Potsdam, and he's quite fired up about it. I think the guys all know he's excited. He's been a great addition to UND, by the way. He leads the team in scoring
Yeah.
after 4 games. He's got 6 points. He's 60% in the faceoff dot. He's been a really important player.
Let's unpack last weekend. I'm sorry, I buried the lead here on what you take away from the 2 games against the University of Minnesota. It was a split. How did you think UND fared in each of the games?
I thought I thought UND played pretty well, I should say, in the first game, and I felt like they were in control most of the game. It's tied going into the third. UND outshoots Minnesota 11-2 in the third, scores 3 times and wins. Saturday night, first period, I thought UND played fine. Second period, things just nothing was happening either way. I mean, shots were low, number of chances being generated were almost none. And then, the third period was the one period that got away from UND, and UND gives up a goal early in the third, just a kind of a weird shot from the point that I'm still not sure exactly where how it trickled in. But it goes in. And then UND actually had a really good response right away, and UND was buzzing, had tons of chances, and then a turnover goes the other way. UND takes a penalty to prevent a chance, and they score as the power play is coming off the books. So, and then after that, you're down 2 goals, so you're pushing to tie it, and that means you're going to give up chances because you're pushing. But it really I thought some of the mistakes compounded. And I thought Minnesota and UND both showed some of their youthfulness this last weekend, and that's sometimes what you get with young players and teams that are a little bit young, is the ups and downs. Sometimes they look great, sometimes they don't look great, and consistency isn't always there. And I thought we saw some of that for the first time in UND's game this season.
We talked about this last week. We were talking about Keaton Verhoff, and you wrote about it, that 32 scouts were at the game. I have written about this as well with Bryce Lance, the amount of NFL scouts that have been at different Bison games and will continue throughout the rest of the season. There's going to be a ton tomorrow night in Brookings. You've seen this. Is it on the road as well? You imagine there's going to be more tonight in Clarkson?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there is going to be a large number of NHL scouts every game UND plays this year. And he is the main attraction. Everyone wants to see Keaton Verhoff. He's projected to go into the top 5. I think right now most people would have him top 2, and if he keeps playing well, there's going to be a debate if he should be number 1.
Man.
So we'll see where that goes. This is his first true road game, so another experience for him in college hockey. He's probably never played in an environment quite like this weekend. We'll see. So, but boy, did he handle the Minnesota series really well. He was great. The rivalry didn't seem to play a role in his game at all. He just played his game, and he was really good.
Have you experienced this? You've covered everybody in UND hockey over the last 20 years. Is this beyond, though, in terms of attention scout-wise? Is anybody compared to this in your time?
The only guy that I can think of would be Jonathan Toews. And really the reason for that is most of these guys, based on their age, you get drafted before you come to college, because it's essentially after your high school senior year. So usually even their top prospects, like a Jake Sanderson or one of those guys, they're already drafted by the time they come here. Keaton Verhoff accelerated his education to come a year early, so he should be a senior in high school right now. But he's 17. He came here early, so he is one of those unique guys who's playing at UND in his draft year, which just has only happened a couple times in my time, and the only guy that's done it who's been that type of a prospect was Jonathan Toews.
which that guy was pretty good last I checked.
Yeah,
He's all right in the National Hockey League
yeah.
with 3 Stanley Cups. What do we make of this Clarkson team? What do we know about obviously being a road environment? Tell us about the Golden Knights and what they'll bring to the table this weekend.
Yeah, I kind of touched on it with the UND in Minnesota. They have a lot of young players too that are playing big roles, and I've watched some of their games, and that's what Clarkson's been. At points in the game, I've looked at them and they've made a ton of really good plays, and I'm like, man, there's some skill there. Like that, they've got some ability on that team. And then all of a sudden you see the youthfulness and they turn the puck over and they make bad decisions on when to go for a hit in the neutral zone, and it ends up with a 3-on-1 the other way. And I'm just like, this is classic young college hockey team. So I would anticipate this weekend we are going to see some of those ebbs and flows because that's the way Clarkson has played. At times they're going to push, they're going to look pretty good. And what UND really needs to do is pressure the defensive core, which is pretty young. Tristan Sarsland's a senior. He's excellent. One of the top in the ECAC, and he's going to play like half the game. The other guys will make mistakes if UND pressures them and plays hard on them and makes it a tough night for them. So I think that's got to be UND's key. They do have some young players, especially on the backhand.
I know you wrote about this. We talked about it last spring when the opening of Major Canadian Junior Hockey. Clarkson went to the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, which, again, that's a league. I believe Crosby played there. I mean, we got some dudes that have played in there. Is that more common for the East Coast teams? You've noticed that they're going that route?
Yeah, it's very common with the geography of the teams. So the Western teams are kind of in the Western League. The Eastern teams are going into the Ontario or the Quebec League, and only one team recruited more Quebec League players than Clarkson, and that's Maine, which is borders right on
there.
Quebec.
Yep.
So it makes sense. But Clarkson has 4 freshmen from the Quebec League. Their head coach used to coach in the Quebec League, so he's got some ties there, and JF Houle went up there and got some guys, and they got some Ontario guys too, which makes sense. I mean, we're right pretty close to the border of Quebec and Ontario. As we're driving in here, we were hearing radio stations in French because we were they were all in Quebec, and then now we're probably a little bit closer to Ontario. So this is the opening of major juniors is probably a great thing for Clarkson. This is right in their backyard, and I would anticipate Clarkson continuing to go up and get really good Canadian players as they've done for years.
All right, last thing. We didn't have time for this last week. Can you, in 2 minutes or less, explain the new rankings that the pairwise is out and what's in? Can you explain what they're doing now?
Yeah, so the MPI is the new formula that will select the NCAA tournament and seed it. I would say for the general fan, you will not notice much difference between the pairwise. If they used the same formula last year, to select the NCAA tournament, the 16 teams would have been the exact same. Every team would have been the exact same seed. So we are talking, it's basically what they did is they simplified the formula. But like results wise, it's going to be the same stuff that are key points to getting in the tournament. The end result is going to be very similar to the pairwise. It's just a different formula that's simpler.
And the only reason I bring that up because games like this, you talked about it, the Canisius series a couple years ago. You can't mess around with that if you want to make the tournament come March.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a common misconception. It's like, it's in the early October game. These can make or break your NCAA tournament. And one of the reasons the NCHC had only 2 teams in the tournament last year is because it struggled the first month of the season in non-conference play. So these are big games. UND started 3-1 in non-conference, which is a good start, but you gotta. These are weekends you have to play well. This is an important weekend for the MPI formula.
Enjoy the fall foliage of upstate New York. Have a great weekend, bud, and we'll talk to you next week, okay?
Excellent. Thanks, Tom.
All right, Brad Schlossman joining us each and every Friday. He's out in Potsdam, New York. Clarkson and UND coming up later tonight. We'll give you the full details on that. Those games are streamed on ESPN Plus this weekend. We'll break. We come back. We'll wrap up our first hour, second hour on tap. Got picks with my dad in about 45 minutes. Looking forward to that. Back on Hot Mic right after this.